Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the unseen botanical rivalry behind the world's most popular beverage. I'm so glad you're here because we're looking at something millions of us rely on every single morning, yet very few of us actually understand. Think about that cinematic steam rising from a freshly brewed cup, or that incredibly satisfying sound of roasted beans hitting the grinder. What you're actually witnessing is the final result of a massive, fascinating agricultural journey.
So, take a second and think about your morning brew. Most of us just think, hey, I'm drinking coffee. But what exactly is in that cup? The reality is, the coffee industry doesn't just pull beans from some generic magic coffee tree. Every single time you take a sip, you're tasting a highly specific choice that was made thousands of miles away, based on climate, agriculture, and complex flavor profiles.
And it turns out almost every cup poured globally comes down to a choice between just two major players. Two species absolutely dominate the globe: Arabica and Robusta. Now, to the untrained eye, these two beans sitting in a burlap sack might look pretty much identical. But trust me, their growing conditions, flavor profiles, caffeine content, and how they're actually used in the real world are vastly different. Understanding this divide is literally the key to understanding the entire coffee trade.
Section 1. Exploring Arabica, the specialty favorite. Let's start with the bean that grabs most of the premium spotlight across the globe. Scientifically known as Coffea arabica, you can kind of think of this plant as a bit of a diva. It's incredibly demanding. It absolutely requires specific high-elevation environments and cool to moderate climates to truly flourish. You're typically going to find these beautiful coffee plantations nestled high up in mountainous highlands, and because it's such a delicate plant, it requires an immense amount of care, precision, and literally perfect conditions to yield those coffee cherries that eventually become the green beans we roast.
But that delicate upbringing pays off because Arabica delivers a beautifully smooth cup. When professional tasters evaluate it, they pick up on this astonishing aromatic complexity. We're talking highly nuanced flavors ranging from sweet and fruity bursts all the way to delicate floral, nutty, and chocolatey notes. It's just a highly sensory, super refined drinking experience.
Section 2. Exploring Robusta, the commercial heavyweight.
If Arabica is the delicate highland flower, our next contender survives by a completely different set of biological rules. Commonly known as Robusta, or Coffea canifera, this plant easily tolerates heat and thrives at lower, much more challenging elevations. Where Arabica might completely fail, Robusta stands incredibly resilient. It does perfectly fine in lush, low-elevation farms where the climate is hotter and, honestly, where bugs are far more plentiful. And here's a wild fact: it actually produces more caffeine, specifically to act as a natural pesticide against those insects. It is a true survivor.
In stark contrast to Robusta, Robusta really doesn't care about being sweet. It packs a massive punch. It offers a strong, intensely bitter character and a noticeably fuller, heavier body. And because of that natural pesticide trait we just talked about, it contains significantly higher caffeine. This is a powerful, unyielding coffee character that is literally designed to give you a serious morning jolt.
Section 3. Head-to-head comparison.
So how do we distinguish these two powerhouses in real life? Visually, there's actually a super handy rule of thumb if you're ever looking at unroasted green beans. Arabica beans tend to be long, oval, and generally a bit elongated. On the flip side, Robusta beans are much rounder and far more compact. Right there on the table, you can physically see the biological divide.
When you taste them side by side, the divergence is huge. Arabica gives you that delicate, whispering complexity, full of those smooth, aromatic notes. Robusta, meanwhile, hits you with a powerful, deeply bitter coffee character and a heavy, unapologetic body. They're essentially offering two completely different sensory experiences.
Putting it all together, their elevation needs completely dictate the geography of where they're grown. Their underlying biology dictates their distinct flavors and caffeine levels, and ultimately, these exact traits decide their final fate. Arabica heads straight for the premium specialty markets, while Robusta steps up to anchor strong blends, espressos, and instant coffees.
Now, don't be fooled into thinking that just knowing the species name tells you the whole story. Appearance alone cannot judge coffee quality. Origin, processing method, roasting, freshness, and how it's prepared all profoundly influence your cup. Processing is huge here. How the cherry is washed and fermented dictates so much of the final taste. A poorly processed Arabica isn't going to magically taste amazing just because of its botanical pedigree. Quality is an incredibly complex chain of events.
Section 4. Which bean is better?
It's human nature to want to rank things, right? to find the absolute best and declare a champion. When faced with these incredible botanical and flavor differences, you really have to wonder, which one is the winner? If you had to pick one champion of the coffee world, is it the delicate Arabica or the resilient Robusta?
Well, the truth is beautifully impartial. There is no single winner. Neither is automatically better. The right coffee depends entirely on the application, customer preference, and the price point. If you want delicate aromas and complex floral notes, Arabica is your go-to. But if you need a strong, full-bodied, high-caffeine kick, Robusta is absolutely your champion.
And this translates directly into how these beans are used worldwide. Arabica naturally dominates the premium specialty cafe space, where single-origin pour-overs really highlight those sweet and fruity notes. Meanwhile, Robusta acts as the sturdy backbone of commercial espresso blends, providing that beautiful, thick crema. It's also heavily utilized in instant coffee production, where a robust, undeniable coffee flavor is required to survive the intense manufacturing process.
Behind the scenes, professional buyers aren't playing favorites. They use a strict, unforgiving matrix. They evaluate the origin and grade of the green beans. They care deeply about the specific processing method used at the farm. They have to juggle exact quality specifications against massive volume requirements, always basing their final choice on the intended end use. It's a highly specialized trade.
Section 5. Global Sourcing with Lanka Trade.
Now that we understand the botany and the business logic, let's look at how this plays out on a global scale. Connecting the right bean to the right buyer requires immense expertise. You don't just go online and order coffee on a global scale. You have to match precise agricultural specs to a roaster's exact needs. And according to our sources, this is exactly the complex logistical gap that organizations like Lanka Trade manage within the agricultural supply chain.
They operate as the vital bridge in this massive global network. They're connecting buyers with top-tier agricultural products, providing professional sourcing support, facilitating all those complicated international trade logistics, and handling the intense quality checks we just discussed, all before a single bean ever goes on a ship. It's a fascinating look at how global trade actually functions.
Understanding this great divide really helps you appreciate the complex botanical journey sitting right inside your mug. And while supply chain experts handle the global sourcing, the final choice is always yours. So next time you take a sip of that morning brew, will you know exactly what kind of bean is fueling your day? Are you tasting the delicate Highlands or the resilient Survivor? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and enjoy your next cup.